Hello, hello, Fabbo listeners. Thank you for popping us into your earbuds and taking us along with you on whatever you're doing today. What a privilege it is to spend some time with you. This is episode 68. And as creative entrepreneurs, I know in this wedding industry, but in the creative industries, especially, the imposter syndrome is alive and well. And we're constantly comparing ourselves to what Susie's doing on Instagram, or, oh my gosh, look at all the sales success Mark's having, right? And we forget that the only person that we should be comparing ourselves to is who, right? Who do we really need to compare ourselves to? We're our own competition. So I want you to sit back today. I want you to turn up the volume a little bit. My good friends Jenny and Jay Holler are back. The Jay Hollers, also mindset coaches. And we dove in to the imposter syndrome a little bit. We dove into about not looking so far away that you forget about who you are, and that you need to be looking in the mirror and telling yourself that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You need to be looking in that mirror and saying, I am Fabbo, and embrace what makes you Fabbo. You need to get up every morning and look in that mirror and say, I arrived today, and today I will do Fabbo things. Today, I'm going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to serve those that I can serve. And at the end of the day, I know that I have been honest, authentic, and I have been kind. This is what we need to do as creative entrepreneurs. We sometimes get so stuck in that mindset that we're not good enough. I'll never be able to do this. One day, I want to do this. I want you to shift that mindset. And today, with our worksheet that you'll be able to download in show notes, so make sure you go get that, you'll follow along and look at some questions that hopefully will shift that mindset for you. Shift that into the way that I can do. I'm excited with the opportunity I get to do. And start on the path of stopping to compare yourself with everybody else around you. The one person you should compare yourself to and why? Week 4 of our 5-week series. That's what we're talking about today. This is the Be Fabbo Podcast. Be right back, y'all. Listening to the Be Fabbo Podcast, episodes full of candid conversations that speak to the hard truth that it takes more than hustle and luck to be your own CEO. Being a creative entrepreneur and running a business is not at all like the glam that you see on Instagram or reality TV. The truth is, it's showing up every single day, putting in the blood, sweat, and yes, lots of tears. Oh, do not forget all the hard work. I'm your host, Bobby Brinkman, photographer, coach, speaker, wedding industry educator, diet Mountain Dew addict. You see why, right? I am hitting the pause on that hustle and luck myth button because it's more than getting a really cute website and hanging a now open sign. Not just waving the magic wand so that all the success, money, and clients will just be lined up ready to hire you. Hope is not a business strategy, my friends. And along with my guests, the goal of our podcast is to motivate, educate, and celebrate creative entrepreneurs discussing topics and information that will help you get and keep you in that CEO mindset through our candid conversations. You're going to hear stories from other creatives at different stages along their career journey. They'll be sharing the same struggles you have, as well as business insights, tools, and foundations that they have in place to keep their businesses moving forward, no matter what kind of SHIT tries to knock you off your career path. I want to challenge you to unapologetically keep showing up to attract your ideal clients, serve them in the most Fabbo way while collecting a purpose-driven paycheck. I want to empower you to create a career that you not only love and are proud of, but also one that your clients love and will support even more. Now let's get started. So throughout this 5-week course, we promised that at the end, we're not going to solve your problems, but we're going to hope that you've opened up your mind, that you can take these lessons and you can go back and look at these worksheets and you can put them into practice every single day of your business. Actionable takeaway steps that you can put into your personal life and into your business. Now, we speak on stages all over, and I often try to incorporate mindset in everything that I talk about, but sometimes at Cater Source or Wedding MBA or some of the others, I can't spend a lot of time on that because we're so engulfed about, well, the business side of our industry, or what's the pricing problem. Or I can't move forward because of this. And as you've learned in all the other 3 weeks, the question behind the question is usually not those things. That's not your issue or your struggle. The issue or your struggle is what you're telling yourself, how you believe in yourself. And that is holding you back. We talked about last week, Jenny and Jay walked you through the whole program about what's holding you back, right? So hopefully you taken these worksheets and you're going to step forward in a little bit of light, that intentional learning. And for the fact that you are investing your time with us today, you're here, says a lot that you want to learn and you want to make these shifts. Now, they won't happen overnight. It's an ongoing process, and they're going to change all the time. But we're going to stick to business here in the Wedding Pros Club along with some life. So you're going to get a little bit of both those combinations today, but we're focusing on the competition side of it. The one person you should compare yourself to and why. And that's what we're going to dive in today. And we're going to start right at 2 o'clock. So settle in, get some things going, get your paper, get your pen, but do some intentional listening. Maybe turn off your phone, maybe put it on, do not disturb, and fully take this time for yourself. Because the more honest you are with these questions, and again, no right or wrong questions, the more honest you are as you work through this worksheet, you're going to see the results. And those results are going to change, friends. And these questions will change. Somewhere along the line, I want you, when you're going through a wedding or you're dealing with a bad day, to think back on the why is this not happening to what can I do to make this happen? That mind. I get to do this. Remember, we get to do this, not I have to. So thank you for joining us. This is week 4. This is the one person you compare yourself to and why. And we're going to kick it off. Jenny and Jay, take it away, my friends, and let's get started. Ready to learn? Let's go.
I love this topic. I love this conversation because a lot of times we want to compare ourselves to the person who has the quote unquote the success, the spotlighted success. That's what we'll call it today. The spotlighted success. They have the ton of the customers. They have they put forth this life, and it's like you look at them, it's the social media whirlwind, right? You look at them and be like, oh my God, they look like their life is awesome and amazing, right? But we don't know the story. And sometimes a lot of people want to highlight the hustle and highlight the hustle and glorify the grind,
Right?
you know? And but you don't know what that person went through. And the biggest thing that can get in your way is you comparing yourself to what someone else is doing right now, someone else has done, and why you aren't where that person is. Why don't you get it? Why haven't you? Whatever, 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 whatever. If you've been here for all 4 weeks, you've noticed everything has built upon each other. We started off with fixed versus growth mindset. We talked about stepping into your season. Last week, we talked about getting out of your own way. And this week, we're talking about that comparison thing, you know? And the only person you should be comparing yourself to is the person that looks back at you in the mirror.
Absolutely. And why, Jenny? Why is that the one person we should be comparing ourselves to?
First of all, and you hear this a lot, is we are all unique human beings with our own flavor, with our own design, with our own touch, with our own energy. And whenever we try to be like someone else, it usually leads to having more stress, more frustration, more dead ends. I mean, it might help you out for a little bit trying to, do what someone else is doing, or maybe you're trying to really be luxury in a market, or you're really trying to do something. But a lot of times it just creates more stress in our lives. And if we just compare ourselves to each other, or I mean, if we compare ourselves to ourselves and not to each other, I mean, just imagine how much more peace that you can have.
And that's the first question that we ask y'all. Who is the person you should compare yourself to and why? Now, maybe your answer is I'm comparing myself to my mother because I wanted to do better than she did. I wanted to achieve more than she did. And lots of times when we're talking about comparison, is it do you want to do more? Do you want to be more like? Do you want to not be like? So we sometimes compare could be a positive and a negative thing. I don't want to be like that person, but I do want to be like this person. So hopefully you wrote into that first question, you, and the reason why is what you're struggling with, why you are that person that you need to compare yourself with. That's the question of, I struggle with this, but I'm comparing myself to myself. What can we do to remove that struggle? What's that pain point that we can do to remove it? So as we go through the questions, now that you got that first one, and now that you know we're talking about you, right? This lesson this week is going to be about you, right? You're the one person that you can compare yourself to. You got to be 1% better than yesterday, 1% better than hour. You only have to impress yourself and improve on yourself. And yes, you're going to be disappointed in yourself. But we've all talked about that you will disappoint everybody often. The lesson is not to disappoint yourself. So the next question, Jay, if you want to take the next question, the 3 areas of your business you continually compare yourself to. What's 3 areas in your business that you are comparing yourself to? Again, no right or wrong. Fill out the form so you can have a worksheet. Jay?
And I want you all to really think about this, because sometimes comparison shows up in different ways. It's like, I haven't been, or I haven't got, or I don't have, or whatever, right? A recent conversation came up where, you know, someone we were talking about business, and they shared their viewpoint um on business, right? And it's like, oh, well, I'm not doing X, Y, and Z, right? But still, you have to sit back and think how you want to do business, and look at the advice that you're given. How did they do business? How are they doing business? And do you actually want to do your business that way? So it could be something as simple as doing business from a linear point, A, B, C, D, or like your business is more flowy. You go with the flow. You don't really have. I mean, yeah, there's strategies, but it's like, whatever it is, whatever, everything happens for a reason. And if you're talking to someone who's coming from a very corporate background point of view, and your business is more free flowing, you're gonna get contradicting advice. And what your subconscious is gonna start doing is start coming up with these questions. You're gonna start the self doubt, the limiting beliefs. Your confidence is going to start flailing, because you're comparing what you're trying to do in business to the suggestions this other person is suggesting for whatever reason. And sit back, whatever information that they give, take it for what it's worth, take what works, get rid of the rest, like Bobby always says. But yeah, where are those three things in your business? And they could be anything. They
And
could
those are
be,
verticals that you can build
yeah,
off to, right?
exactly.
Everybody's vertical is going to be different. So when we talk about verticals, it's what's moving you up. So you have a vertical. This is, or a lane, right? I'll compare that. I use that terminology a lot, lane. But you have your verticals. So when you have your verticals, it kind of goes along a timeline of, this is when I started this and this is when I started this. But then you have your verticals. And sometimes you have a vertical that you may just have to park someplace. Like you can't get anything moving. But that's where the comparison comes into. Just because you're vertical might be 20 or 30 things listed in that vertical, and verticals are ways that you build upon your business. It's like steps and plans, but they're verticals. This vertical will build on this vertical. This one might hold this vertical, might hold something back. So as you look at those business verticals, they automatically will take a mirror look into your personal verticals, in your life verticals, because if something in your life is holding you back, that's going to halt you in your business. If something in your business is giving you struggles, you're not going to be happy in your life because you're trying to figure out, how do I solve these problems? So everybody's vertical is different, and you need to understand that it will change constantly, but it's okay to park your vertical. Don't compare the vertical. Jenny?
We are allowed to look at other businesses for inspiration. You can look at Bobby's business if you're a photographer. You can look at our business if you're wanting to do coaching. You can look at, whoever's business, whether it be in the industry or outside the industry. And you can look to it for inspiration, because maybe they're doing something that you really want to do. Maybe they're in a market you really want to get into. Maybe they travel and do their business that way. But the thing is I feel like where it starts to tip is when we are starting to feel that stress and pressure that we're not that. We're not being that. We don't have all the things that we see or all the things that we strive. I feel like that's really when it starts to tip. And that's when we have to have that self awareness and really be honest with ourselves. What is driving this behavior? What's driving the comparison? What's driving the stress? What's driving the anxiety? Because a lot of times when we're comparing, and it's a very human thing to do. So if you are comparing, like, you're not in the wrong. It's okay. Like, it's part of being a human. But really just being honest with yourself. Like, is this coming from a place that I'm comparing my business or life? And that goes in the next question. What are 3 areas of your life you continually compare to others?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure people look at what Jay and I are doing. We're traveling around the world and nomading. And I'm sure there's people who look and compare themselves to our life and maybe feel a ways about it, that they don't have what we have. But each of us have the ability to create our own life, our own experience of the world, our own experience of business. Bobby?
And you have to think about that too, as now you're into that real talk, right? What do you know about yourself that triggers those comparisons? You know, if you just saw somebody win an award, do you go, man, I did the same thing that they did. I had the same amount of weddings, or I was published 18 times. Why did they did get that best of? What triggers that behavior that you now compare yourself to? I was talking to Jackie earlier. You know, I needed a place to vent and some comfort, and Jackie always has an open heart. And we talked about why are things working for some people and not others. We compare ourselves by natural being a human. But we need to compare ourselves to, well, what can I do to see myself on that stage, or to see myself getting that award, or to see myself maybe even stepping back and taking less weddings. So real talk, write that down here. What are those triggers, comparisons? What triggers comparison as you're looking at your business, Jay?
And if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of that is ego. A lot of that is ego, you know? And what the ego does is the ego is the main reason we get stuck, because the ego wants to protect us, you know? And um and it's like, oh, well, I should be doing that, or I want to be doing that, or that should be me. That's ego talking. And it's like Bobby said, that real talk. Do you even know that your ego is popping up in these certain instances? Have you ever just like sat with yourself, looked at your business, looked at your life, and asked yourself, what do you really want to do? Not because the world says you should do it, or your mom or dad, sister, brother, whoever, best friend, their life looks a certain way, but what do you want your life in business to look like?
And that's a great comparison to that, right? Don't compare yourself to what other people want to compare yourself to, right? And ego, you hear me say all the time, is just a big brother, big sister of fear. Ego comes into play when we're really fearful of something, fear of failing, fear of not feeling offered, good enough, fear of I'll never be that, or fear of nobody wants me, right? That's a fear that comes in to talk about that. And let's pause there while Jackie comes up. Jenny, bring Jackie up, and let's see if Jackie can share on 3 areas of our business or our life, or real talk and a trigger. Jackie, welcome to the stage.
Hello, hello. How are you guys?
Great.
Thank you
Jackie!
so much. Hi, Jay. Hi, Jenny. Bobby, glad to hear you again. I'm loving this topic, and I'm literally talking to you as I am riding my Peloton. I'm not gonna lie, but something that really triggered me just a second ago, Bobby, was you talking about ego. And I think it would be really important to say, in this industry, ego is huge.
Yes.
Like, we have everything on the line. And I know that it's something that happens to everybody. Everybody has it. And it's something that a lot of us don't even know we have until we don't, until we do something and see someone else get rewarded. So I think ego is huge in this industry, and I
It's a
think
trigger.
that
It's a trigger, right?
it's a huge trigger. And I think because there is so much competition, it makes it even bigger. So I just wanted to put that out there and just say it's okay to check yourself every
Right.
now and then. It's okay to not win an award but still be disappointed, and to say to yourself, oh my gosh, why didn't I get it? I should have. It's
Exactly.
all okay because it's all natural human emotions that we feel and go through. And in this particular industry, we are all so emotional and we put everything we have into it. And I think it just makes it even worse. So those are
100%.
those are my thoughts.
100%. And to go back to the ego will help you compare yourself. The ego is something that's going to say, I'm comparing myself to these people because of, and again, ego is the big brother, big sister of to fear. So as we move forward with our questions, keep in mind quite often that as you go through this worksheet, something will trigger you. Something is probably going to be that trigger that talks to you about what's the space in your business that comparison comes in. When you look at a magazine, these are all, we've determined that this is just natural behavior of what we do. But the comparison needs to be, how can I shift from that? How can I learn to move myself from comparing, feeling left out, or even sometimes feeling I'm on the top of the world, right? Because sometimes we compare ourselves to, I've reached the upper level. What else there's for me to do? We've struggled and struggled. We put the work in and now we're here. What's left? Who do I compare myself to now? It still comes back to you. So, Jenny, we're going to dive into the next question, which is, what is your ideal image of yourself? This is a two-parter. So I want you all to write down, what is your ideal image of yourself? Explain a little bit, Jenny, how to guide along that one, and then follow up that question with, how can you focus on how you compare that to others instead? So what is your ideal image of yourself? Write that down, Jenny.
When we think about this, for me, what comes up is who we want to become as a person, as a human, our character. What are the things that in the future we imagine ourselves doing in our business and our personal life, work life balance and work life integration? How do you view yourself? Because in the future, because really it's a matter of stepping into that, like, and asking the question, who do I have to become? Because if you are looking outside of you and you see a business model or you see someone else in the industry that you really want to, or you aspire to be or be similar to, you have to ask yourself, who do I have to become? And am I willing to become that? And really, when we're able to look inside ourselves, we may find that our journey is even more powerful than looking outside of us to become and be like someone else.
And writing down that ideal image, be honest with yourself. You're probably going to write a couple of things that you think are fabbo and some other things that you think you can improve on. But when you put that together and get that recipe, it's that recipe that you can now say, okay, here's the areas that I need to work on, and it's okay to work on, but here's some areas that I got down pretty good. So let's focus on the good, see what we can shift in that's not working for us. And sometimes it's those questions behind the questions that are holding you back. You're not booking a client. Let's look at why you're not booking a client. It's more so that than just your price or something on your website. It's how are you approaching? What's the message that you're sharing? What's the opportunities you want to have available to yourself, right? So when you write down those ideal things about you, things that you know right now that are about you and how you compare them, be honest here and don't worry that you might write a negative thing about yourself. We're not saying that you can't think something negative. We want to help you change that negative thought and put that into a growth mindset, right? Not, I'm fixed that I can't do something, to growth, what am I going to do to be able to do that? Jay?
Sorry. Yeah, and I love what Jen said about looking inside, because in this microwave society that we live in, and also this particular industry, everything is so aesthetically pleasing. You know, how can I get that, or how do I do that? How can insert whatever? But a lot of times we look for the outward answers. You go to these conferences looking for someone to give you the next bet strategy.
Magic
Sometimes
bullet.
you sit in these rooms and expect us to give you the answers, but that's not the point. The point is to be a facilitator, a guiding light for you on your particular journey, because everybody's journey is the same. Me and Jenny are partners, but our journey is different. I said that wrong. Excuse me. You guys understand what I was saying, though? Me and Bobby, we have some similarities, but our journey is different. All you down there in the audience, you know, you have different journeys, different things you have to go through. And the crazy thing is we all could go through the same thing and get and something entirely different from it. And this is what there's no answers here. There's no answers out there. The answers that you need, the strategies that you're looking for, everything that we're giving you go to these conferences is get, all they are is tools. But here's the thing with tools. You can buy the best tools in the world, but you still have to put in the work to build the house.
Right.
And this is what this room is. And when you go to these conferences and you hire coaches, they're giving you tools. They can't build the house for you.
You have to still be able to put the tools in place, right? Yeah, and if you don't get the tools out, they get rusty. So that brings us up to something that I don't always talk about when I'm teaching mindset or when I talk with my students, but it is about the social comparison. And because this is the wedding club and this is the industry that we're in, we know how vital. So I'm quite sure some of you are going to come up and want to share on this. And remember, just when you get done sharing, we're going to put you back down to the audience just to keep the flow going because we want to get through the program, but we want to hear from you as well. That's what we're doing. So the social media comparison. How many times a day do you compare yourself with others on IG? Like literally, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody's doing that. I can't believe Fausto's down in Miami. How come he's getting a big vacation even though I know he's working? How come Jackie gets to be able to ride her Peloton right now? How come? We're comparing. Instead of wondering how they got there and all the work they put into that, are just respecting that, oh my gosh, they're doing that because they did XYZ. Their ABC is working for them because they did XYZ. So is this how you gauge your progress? Are you comparing yourself to social media? And you all know my take on this. Likes don't pay the bills. Followers don't pay the bills. And 100% whoever likes you and is following you, how much money you have in the bank account, how many weddings you have booked, that does not determine your worth as a human being. It does not determine your worth as a human being and the impact that you have outside of this industry. But is that how you're comparing yourself? Because now you're doing the same thing. I look in the mirror, I'm not worthy of everything I see on social media. I look in the mirror, I'm not worthy of this. Why am I here? Why am I struggling? The answers are deeper. Is this how you're gauging your process, your progress? And if this is why you're doing it, I want you to write down, why are you doing that to yourself? What is it? Let's get to that question behind the question. Jenny?
Have you ever known somebody, whether it was like a close friend or, maybe a coach or something you hire, like, somebody and then you like have gotten to know them so well that behind the scenes, and then you see their post on social media and you're like, wait, that doesn't add up.
Right.
Do you realize, I'm sure you do, but we're going to bring this up to the surface, that there are a lot of different scenarios on social media. Sometimes there's an assistant posting all the stuff. Sometimes it's a social media company posting all the stuff. Sometimes the person is just really good at social media and they're good at putting the things out there. There's so many different ways that people run social media. And as you guys know too, it's a highlight reel. Think about how you use it for your own business and your own life, or if you have multiple accounts or whatever you run, like think about how you use it. I know everybody uses it for different reasons, but the perspective here is really understanding that everybody has a different purpose on social media. Everybody has a different motivation. Everybody has a different potential team behind them. And so here's another thing, if you are getting triggered by things you're seeing on social media, you can always unfollow something or somebody for a period of time. Because here, I'll tell you, look, and it's not even a weird thing. There is a coach that I really, really love, and her content is really good. I love following her. She's a very heart-centered individual. But I noticed what was happening is I was getting jealous looking at her posts because she just moved into a bigger house in LA. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know why we don't have that yet. Like all the things that Bobby's talking about. And she is not a bad person. She's not she's so in alignment with what she does, but it was triggering me. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, it's that awareness. And I was like, I need to unfollow her for a while because I don't want every time for me to see her post to have jealousy, resentment, anger, for whatever coming
Right.
up. It
Energy.
takes, yeah, I've unfollowed her. And when it's
Well,
time,
and you
I'll
sometimes
refollow
they
her
get on
back,
there
and
just
that's
to be
fine.
busy, right? Sometimes we go on social media just because in our heads, oh, if I don't post for a while, I I'm not being busy, or I better be posting because my clients are going to be like, well, I haven't seen you for a while. What are you doing? And if you run multiple accounts, are you just doing that to compare yourself to others? Look what you're doing. You're doing a disservice to yourself, right? You're not being honest with yourself. That's the imposter syndrome that comes in. That's why Fossil even says you have to be yourself and be honest, because not everything that glitter is gold, right? We all know these things, but yet human nature makes us fall into them. So when again, I remind you, there's no right or wrong answers here, but I want you to just think. Jenny and Jane are really doing this program to help everybody kind of think. We want you to grow in a personal development, and we want you to grow in your business. And again, a better business starts with a better you. So just supposed to
But
be busy, Jay, let's not do that, right?
yeah, and before we move on, I want you to throw a little asterisk on your around your answer for this one, and ask yourself another question. Do you celebrate the wins?
Yep.
And I'm not talking about the big wins. I'm just talking about the wins, period. Do you celebrate them, or are you looking for a huge firework? It doesn't count unless it looks like this. That's another thing. All the conditions we put on success, all the conditions we put on, okay, I'm not valuable or worth my worth. I know that's not your word, Bobby, but um unless it looks like this, right? And that puts us in a box. you know just think of all the little things that are happening that you neglect, you glance over because it didn't look a certain way.
Right. And you hurt yourself that way because you don't take the time to celebrate others. Because if we take our time to celebrate others, again, sometimes that confidence, we go, okay, I'm celebrating them, but I want to be them. You know what? Put that aside. Celebrate. You get more when you give. You know that. When you open yourself up to be abundance and to let the abundance come to you, because you lead with your heart forward, and you lead with kindness, and you celebrate each other. We have to motivate, educate, and celebrate each other in this industry, especially. And it goes with a lot with that question of, what if you didn't ask yourself this question? What would we be doing today if we didn't have this conversation today? That's why I asked you at the beginning to sit and do some intentional learning, right? This week is about learning about yourself. Be intentional with answering the questions. Be honest with answering the questions. It's just you, nobody else. You're not sharing them. You don't have to do anything, but be intentional. But what if we didn't ask you these questions? What if this conversation didn't happen? Would you continue down that same path? So asking that, let's move on, Jenny and Jay, to how can you leverage your talents to overcome the comparison with yourself and with your competition? How can you leverage? This is where you sit back and do what, Jenny? You change your mindset from what to what?
Well, from fixed to growth. The thing is about our talents is sometimes we don't see them as our talents because they come so naturally to us. Other people are like, "Wow, you're so good at that." You're like, "Really? Oh, not me. I just throw it together. It's easy. I just do this." But I believe that we admire those and we're really drawn to those who have stepped fully into who they are,
Yep.
whether it be a movie star or someone else in the industry or a family member or just someone you pass on the street. We can feel when someone is fully owning who they are, and we really are drawn to that because we want that for ourselves. So if we can step into and embrace our talents, what if you really owned who you were and you fully embraced that? What would there be to compare to? Like if you're 100% fully authentically you.
Exactly. You're giving it your best shot. That old adage, a win is a win, a loss is a lesson, right? What did we learn? We're learning something from it. And it's okay to say, I had a loss today. You didn't lose this client. They just weren't right for you at this moment. But it was nothing that you did. So you beat yourself up because, again, I'm comparing myself to the photographer that booked that job, or maybe Fausto's comparing it to they went within their venue, or Michelle's like, oh, they didn't come to me for their special needs. They didn't come to me with their special unique gift. I have that gift. You cannot compare yourself to how they solved that client's problem. You have to let it go. Hardest thing in the world is to let it go. Be so focused on what you're doing with your talents. Be so focused on the intention and the integrity you bring with your talents that you are okay that that person is better served by going in another direction. That phrase we all don't like to hear, but there is truth in that phrase. There is truth in that. So, Jay, if you can expand a little bit on while it's okay to let that go, you're talking about the wings and the small wins be big. Expand on that a little bit so we can use that as a stepping stone to get to our next question.
Yeah, and I love this because no one can do what you do. We all have that specific talent, whatever it is, whatever it was. And I love that Fausto popped in the room because one of the first times I was in Clubhouse and I heard Fausto is unapologetically himself. And you will know when you can hear when he talks, when he presents himself, when he shows up, you know what you're getting, because authentically that's Fausto, as well as Jackie too. And when you show up like that, opportunities will present themselves. Going back to the question, how can you leverage your talents? If you know what you can do and you know what you can do damn well, and you do that, other people will see that, and then you could leverage your talents with their talents, and you can create something magical. Fabbo, as a matter
Exactly.
of fact, this whole series came about because Jenny, Bobby, and I showed up authentically, stepped into our talents, and said, we want to do something for this club that is really going to help people change their lives and their businesses. And opportunities started popping up.
Exactly. And when you embrace your talents and you step into your purpose, you don't have to worry so much about what somebody else is doing because you're giving your talents your all. We're all here to make an impact. We're all given gifts. And ultimately, our gift that we're supposed to give back while we're here, as Muhammad Ali says, is the time to serve. While we're here on earth, we are to serve. And there's great joy coming from serving. And in this industry, we all serve. So as you embrace your talents and you leverage those, you also have to remind yourself, how are you showing up for your talents for yourself as you grow your business? How are you showing up? Are you showing up, hey, I'm going to try this today. I already know I have this mastered. I'm going to add this into my service. I'm not going to raise my price, but I'm going to add value. Maybe I raise my price and I take away some value. How are you showing up and knowing what to do? Because, we always tell you, we always remind you, compete on value, not on price. And this is where comparison comes in a lot. We talk a lot about the pricing. Helga talks about her struggle on finding the right fit client and not just getting friends wanting to pay. Linda talks about sometimes people only want to hire lower end photographers. Step into your purpose, know your talents. How are you showing up for your talents, for yourself, that grows your business? How are you doing that, Jenny?
I say you lean into what you enjoy the most and do more of that. When we're having fun in business, when we're having fun in life, it just attracts more abundance. It attracts more things to us. So why not lean more into that? That's what Jay and I believe in. We lean into our talents. We lean into the things that we love to do. And that's what helps bring more business our way.
Absolutely. And Roberto over in the audience, again, Roberto, I'm so glad you could join us today. I met Roberto at the Wedding Series Summit, and he says he utilizes social media to get inspiration from others. And we all think and create differently, and this is where the magic happens. And he's right on. He's right on. We all think and create differently, but you use something for inspiration. You're not using it to compare. You're using it to fight something, to find something, to ignite something, to use your talents. Jay?
Yeah, and I was re-looking at the question there. It's like, how do you use your talents to overcome your weakness? If you're using your talents, you don't have to worry about your weakness
Yep.
because your talents is going to help you attract those people who are talented in the area that you're weak at. and your talent will probably be someone's strength where they're weak at. So when you step into your talent, you attract those other people, and it just becomes a synergetic type of thing where you don't have to worry about the weakness, because you know someone else is going to show up in that particular area, so you can play to your strengths, to your talents, and let them play to their strengths and their talents, and things kind of flow. And I know, we get into the woo woo talk sometimes, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is what you guys are saying. You make it sound so easy. We're not saying it's easy. We're not saying it's easy. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to sit and kind of dig through, as Pink Hair Jen says, some emotional spikes, some triggers, some button pushing. And this is a process. So, after this 5-week series, we're not saying, okay, go conquer the world. No, it's going to take practice. It's going to take work. Linda posted in the Facebook group, she re-listened to one of the first ones, and because the first time it brought up some things. And that's what you have to do. Like, reprocess the information until it makes sense. And sometimes that takes over and over and over. And even reaching out and saying, you said this in the room, this is my issue. Could you expound a little bit? Or whatever
And
that looks like.
exactly, and we talk all the time about investing in courses, and we invest in going and get certified for something, but we're not taking the time to do that for ourselves. There's the great article in the Cater Source magazine. I'll give Faust a little bit of shout out, and it's a crack in this industry, right? There's a crack because we don't always talk about those things, and that's part of the mindset. The mindset is part of the mental, and the mental is how something is making you feel. There's something that's triggered something. There's something that you can't get past because this now is a crutch, or maybe this addiction is helping you solve a problem or helping you move forward. And so mindset won't change the world, but it can change you. And when you change yourself, and you can start doing things for others, right? Those are the things that you have to continue to try to do. So if we move on to the next question, because I want you to write down those things. Remember, how are you using it to grow, and how are you overcoming your weaknesses? And then this one is, what areas of your business do you think potential clients compare you with others? And if you guys want to come up on this one, we'd love to hear some of this. What areas of your business do you think that potential, not current, potential customers look at your website, look at your social media, and compare you with others? And then maybe expand on how that makes you feel. Jenny?
I mean, going back to my corporate days, usually I could tell what people were comparing whatever it was I was selling based on the questions they would ask. Usually the questions they would ask and the objections they would have to moving forward. A lot of times, whenever the questions or objections, now let me rephrase. When the objections were about price, I knew that I didn't really show value very well. And it was so annoying to me when they would get stuck on price, because I'm like, we're so much more, because that's what we all know, especially when it's our own business and you're not selling for someone else. You're like, but
Right.
I have all these things, so I think that our customers, depending on who they are, where they come from, I mean, there's a lot of different things they're comparing on. They could be comparing based on your Instagram feed. They could compare based on your videos. They could compare based on price. They could compare based on package, who you've served in the past. Do you have big names? Have you interviewed anywhere? I mean, there's so many things. And I agree with you, Bobby. I'd love to hear, what you guys who are listening are experiencing in this. And I'd love to hear too how it makes you feel, because we can all learn from that together.
Well, and because we know that it's not, that the question really isn't the price. We know that you didn't see value in it, but it's also, how were you showing up on social media that somebody thought that might be something that they want to work with you on, right? Did they show up on social media because you were showing a lot of DIY? Did they contact you because you're showing luxury? Even though that's my favorite word, but there was something, there's a message. And if you're authentically showing up as yourself, would that client have attracted to you? Would that client have reached out to you? Because now they look great on paper. They love everything about you. They say everything, but then you get that dreaded, I'm not going to go with you because you're too expensive. It's a question behind the question. And it's the same when coaching students come, right? It's the clients start off with the most simplest problem that they have, But Jenny J and I know, and anybody that really dives into this knows that that's not really the issue or why they're coming to us. There's a different, it's the root of something. So we have to get down, we have to do the questions that are going to challenge you to tell us what's really bothering you. And we're not going to tell you that, but we're going to give you questions that unravel that, right? So that's what we're trying to do. So in your business, if people or potential clients are constantly saying, I compare you to this, this, and this, how can you change your mindset to let that not bother you? How can you get a new vertical, write a new plan, and figure out a different way to say what your services are? That's what we're asking you to share if you want to share. Jay?
Yeah, and I'm jumping ahead while you guys, rush to the stage to the
Yeah.
next question. And it's like, um, compete on value, not price.
Right.
List three ways you are or you can do that. And like everyone we've talked to, as far as coaches, mentors, people, the it goes back to, what value are you bringing? I mean, yes, we know the value. It's your business. You know the value, but are you bringing that across clear enough? Is
Right.
it clear for someone to look at your social, to look at your website, to look at your one sheet, to get off a call with you and understand what they're getting for what you're charging? Because it's easy to slap a price tag on something and say, yes, I'm worth this. And someone just seeing like the amount and being like, oh, well, I can go down the street and get it for cheaper. Like, what is the value that you bring to the table? And if you um focus on that value and bringing it forward in such a crystal clear way that a 4 or 5 year old could understand, you won't have any problems with people comparing you to other people, because there's no comparison,
Right.
because it comes down to the value. Yes, they can say, well, such and such is cheaper, but such and such doesn't do what you do.
And
And
Jay
it
and I
comes down
talk.
to
Oh, sorry,
talking.
Jenny.
Yeah, I'm like, it comes down to that, but it also comes down to talking to the right people, or the right people coming in your door. I just wanted to add that.
Oh, no, exactly. And it goes back to Jay and I talk a lot about the habits. We get in such habits in our life, in our business. And if you be honest, it's the habits that are the challenge. We don't break out of our habits. We keep doing the same thing over and over and over. We keep sending out the same PDF. We keep sending out the same questionnaire. We keep doing the same thing and we get the same results. It's the habit that we're doing. We have to change that habit. We have to tell ourselves, okay, this isn't working. I'm not getting all of these things done. People aren't seeing me for what I need them to see. I now am really comparing myself to every other wedding industry person, everybody in my market. When I go to networking, I stand in the corner because I don't feel that I belong here, because I see everybody else doing better. You have to change your mindset to know that you're worth walking in that room. You walk in that room, excuse me, you walk in that room and you own it because of who you are as a person and who you serve and what you do. And you're proud of it. Not because you have $1 million in the bank or because you have zero in the bank. You walk in the room ready to offer value, right? You walk in the room and you don't walk in and say, hey, I'm really struggling right now. I see that you keep hiring Jenny all the time for every event. Or every time I turn around, I see Chevy is working in your venue. You don't go up and do that. You go up and you simply say, hey, as a business person, I would love to come to you with this idea. I just have these new set of dresses that Natalie has just finished. I would love and come to photograph them as the backdrop of your venue. It would be a win-win for all of us, and it would showcase your venue in a new, beautiful light. Come to a room, come to networking with your purpose value. Come with something. Don't come in asking, come in offering. And whatever you're going through, whether you're no money in the bank, a ton of clients, show up authentically you, knowing that you can make an impact on somebody else's business, on another client that will also impact what you do. You have to believe in yourself. That mindset has got to be set the minute you walk through that door. Not cocky, not bullshit, not over conceited, but your mindset and confident that you know you're right where you're supposed to be, but you're breaking some habits that will move you forward. Jay?
Roberto put over in the chat, it's all about knowing your value and educating your clients. This is so totally true. But you can't know your value if you don't fully believe in yourself. If you're still struggling with limiting beliefs and self-confidence issues, because something's always going to come up where you're going to say, oh, I'm not worth whatever, or oh, I don't deserve this. So yes, we talk about value in business and knowing your value, but before you know your value, you have to know and believe that you're here to do exactly what you're doing. Because once you know that, once you're able to do that, you can step into that confidence and say, as Michelle said in the chat, like 5 years, today is her 5 year anniversary of her business. And she questioned herself. She questioned her values. She questioned her worth. But now her prices are what they are. And she has no problem stepping into a situation and telling somebody, yes, these are my prices because this is what I bring to the table.
And
This is
nobody
what
else
I'm
can
giving
do
to you.
what I do.
Exactly.
Nobody else can do what I do. I'm so sorry that you don't see the value. And if you don't want to apologize, don't apologize. But this is how I do what I do. This is the experience that I offer. You're competing with yourself here. Don't compete with the person that they're coming to. I know Fausto probably gets a lot of people that come and say, I can get this whole dinner meal for this, this, and this, right? He gets a lot of that. But if Fausto took all his energy, and he would admit that it bothers him sometimes, but if he took all his energy into why am I not booking all this, he wouldn't be one of the most successful businesses in Maine. He wouldn't be sought after to do all the things that he does because he shares what he knows. He's not going to tell you how to do it, but he broke some habits that allowed him to keep moving forward, right? Those habits that we work on are what get in our way. So you have to always be confident that you know what you're doing right now and it's here to serve what you're serving. You may have to change it. You may have to rework on it. Goals need to be flexible, y'all. Goals can't be in concrete, but it boils down to the problems that you're having in your business lie deeper with something that you're telling yourself. We've got to get that mindset to understand that you can do this. People will tell you all the time that you can't. People will call you every name in the book. People will start calling you names when they see you move forward. When people see your noise, they want to try to be louder. When people see that you are sitting back and you don't need to be on social media, you don't need to be standing on stages, but you're making an impact in the industry. And guess what? You're happy at your house with your 6 figures or 4 figures or 3 figures, and you're happy that you do 2 weddings a month and go to Disney. You're successful because you are into yourself and you know your competition and you know what you're doing for yourself and your business. And those are the things that the mindset helps with. Those are the things that the mindset gets us moving forward. And those are the ways that you can come up with 3 strengths and weaknesses. And how can you use them to set and make a difference? Because what are your superpowers? What are they? You all have them. Habits and superpowers. How do they help move us forward, Jenny?
I think we're continuing to reinforce a point over and over and over is when we lean into what our superpowers are and what we're really good at, we can be in flow. We can
Yep.
have more fun. We can attract more to us. And I think that what happens is for those of us who are solopreneurs or we have smaller businesses where it's just us and a couple of people, we have to wear a lot of hats. And wearing a lot of hats has us maybe doing some things we're not as comfortable with or not as good
Yep.
at or frustrated with or whatever that is. And I don't know, for me, I'm constantly reevaluating the things that are my weaknesses and asking myself, is this something that it still makes sense for me to do? And I guess I know we've talked about do you outsource it or not, but even how can you look at it a different way? So say, for example, you want to do in your business, um, you saw someone else in the business do an Instagram live every day. So you're like, oh my God, I want to do that. But then you go do it and you keep getting stuck. And you realize that one of your superpowers is not really like being on camera. You don't like being on camera. So you say, you know what, I'm going to focus on behind the scenes or I'm going to focus on highlighting other people. So maybe you don't do it the way someone else did. You find a way to leverage what you're really good at. Or maybe you're good at editing things. So go ahead and edit and put up an edited thing. I think we sometimes get excited about what other people are doing and we want to implement it in our business because we're like, wow, that's so cool. But then we start to do it and we realize we're outside of our strength and maybe more into our weakness or vice versa.
And that goes to us sometimes always trying to be perfect, right? And I got newsflash here. Y'all have heard it before. Done is better than perfect, and getting a paycheck is better than done and being perfect. So you can't even collect a paycheck if you don't get out there. And when you stop comparing yourself to others, you will invest in a long-term growth for yourself, and you're going to find growth and happiness and success, right? And if you stop, if you get that mindset, if you can get into that mindset that I'm not going to compare myself, and you stop worrying on other people and you focus on how you can compare yourself to yourself and that question we asked earlier, your ideal image, you're going to see the world in a different place. You're going to see your business grow exponentially because you're breaking the habits. Your mindset is saying, I believe I can do this. I know I'm going to do this. Here's the steps I need to take. I'm taking the tools out of the toolbox and I'm going to put them to use. I may not be perfect. Well, I'm not going to be perfect a lot of times, and I may stumble. Fail fast, fail often, right? Fail fast, fail often. Learn fast, learn often. Because as you work through this series of these questions that we had all 5 weeks, when you look back at your first questionnaire to what you see next week, you have already seen growth, and you may not even realize it because you're probably already putting into place some habits. You've taken back the steps we've offered you, and you've put them in place where you don't even realize that you might have done it. But stop worrying and putting energy into somebody else's Enneagram. Take Roberto's advice, find it for inspiration. Listen to Fausto, listen to Jen, listen to Linda. Anytime somebody is speaking, take that for what you need to take it for, but also don't compare yourself to what somebody else needs you to be. Don't try to be somebody. I gave that up earlier this year. I cannot be what certain people want me to be. I'm okay with that now, and I'm leaning into the direction that I need to go. It's hard because I want to compare myself to myself, but then I think, but this is how others see me. How others see me is not going to serve myself, bring me joy. I will not be able to fulfill and lean into that and serve others if I'm not authentically myself. So that's why we ask these questions, Jay.
I think Steve Harvey had a great quote where he says, um, anybody else's opinion of you is none of your damn business.
Right,
It
right.
doesn't matter what other people think. We put so much fucking energy into how other people see us or whatever. And it's like, well, if I don't show up this way, I won't get clients. But if you show up authentically as yourself, you will attract the clients that you love to work with. So
And I had to do that same question. I mean, I want everybody to hear that Jenny and Jay and I have these same situations. We're not, it doesn't just go to everybody else and not us. I mean, I literally today before this call said to Jackie, if I do this, I don't want my integrity or my character to be attacked. If I do this, do I run the risk of that? But if I don't do this and go do this, will that person think this of me? It wasn't a comparison, but it boils down to we've worked so hard in our lives to become the authentic people that we are, that when somebody maybe steps into our circle or space and questions it, it triggers. Not by comparison, but it's now an integrity or a character question. So I want you to understand that everybody goes through this. As Jackie even said the same thing. The most successful people have doubts. They just have a lot of coaches around them that remind them, look at all you've done. Look at what you're going to do. They have doubts. That's why they know and invest in a lot of people. So as you write those things down in your superpowers, I want you guys to own them. I want you guys to start stepping into them this weekend, Jay.
now I was gonna say, and what you just said, Bobby, touched back to what we talked about in one of the sessions a couple of weeks ago. If you missed that, like, who are the 5 people? Your your
Yep.
your your Fabbo 5. Who is your Fabbo 5? And these are the people you can reach out and talk to when you're having those doubts, when you're having those limiting beliefs, when you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going through right now," and they say, "Okay, cool, you got it off your chest. What are you gonna do about it?"
Exactly. So, for the past 3 weeks, we have asked you to take a look inside yourself. And we're going to continue to do that for next week, right? What goals or paths for your life and your business do you want to compete with yourself on? Write down the goals, the path, the journey. Write them down that you want to compete with yourself on. Meaning, I challenge myself to accomplish this. I change that mindset to I can't do that to what are the steps it will take for me to do this? I would like to book 5 weddings next week. Turn that into I don't know how to book to I will work to book 3 weddings next week by doing XYZ. So, what are those 3? Just write down 3. I don't want to limit you, but sometimes working in small steps lead to bigger goals. So 3, I want you to write those down. What are them steps for your life and your business that you want to compete with yourself on? And where do you want that competition to take you? Think about that. Take a moment there. Jenny?
Think about all of these sessions we've done and the work that you do when you do all this internal work and you dig up some shit that can be kind of annoying and frustrating, and you're like, because I'm going through it right now. We all do at different points, right? It's like an onion. It's like you're peeling the layers of an onion. We're sitting here and you hear it all the time. Don't care what other people think about you. Okay, so you work on that, you go through with a coach, you go through with yourself, whatever you do, right? And then you're like, all right, I don't care about what people think about me. I'm strong. And then a week later, a couple weeks later, a month later, you care about what someone thinks about you. You're like, dang it, I thought I already dealt with this. So it's going to keep coming up. But the thing is you have the tools. You have the tools to continue to shed the layers and to be able to really get to the core. And when you're paying attention, you're noticing what's triggering you, what's not feeling good. Are you getting into comparison again? You're able to move out of them quicker. Because the more we stay stuck, the more frustrating life is, the more stress we have, and if we can stay flowing and stay moving and give ourselves grace in the process, which I know can be tough for us overachievers and perfectionists because
Right.
we're, you know what I'm saying? We're used to operating a certain way. This can be kind of tough to slow down, think about these things, but the reward is well worth it. And I love
And
what Fausta said,
comparison
stay
can
true
be
to you.
motivation, right?
Yeah.
Comparison can be motivation. So that's what this question kind of asks you. Motivate yourself here to compare yourself to you, challenge yourself to compete with yourself, and put those goals down and give yourself a deadline. Let that comparison of what you're seeing on Instagram or social media, TikToks, let that be a motivator. Now, we don't want you to go and do exactly what the person is doing. We want you to stay true to yourself, as we consistently talk about, and most of us here in the room today feel this way. But that's the challenges that you have, because also when you start comparing yourself, it opens up a place of gratitude for yourself to be grateful for what you have accomplished, right? You eliminate the comparison and you know that it's okay to be imperfect, but what are the challenges that you want to compete with yourself on? And you write those down. Let that be motivation, Jay.
Yeah, and I love what Fausto says, stay true to yourself.
Yep.
But for you to do that, you have to sit and know who you really are.
Yep.
And a lot of us don't do as me, Jenny, and Bobby say, do the work, because sometimes getting down there and digging up those things and dealing with those triggers and those emotional spikes, it doesn't feel good, you know? But if you have a wound, you got to get in there, you got to clean out the wound.
Yep.
Because if you don't get in there and clean out, it's going to get infected and it's going to cause more hurt than harm. And it's the same thing we're saying to do. Yes, sitting down with yourself is like getting in that wound, cleaning it out, getting all the dead skin out, whatever, so you don't get that infection. But once you get it all cleaned out, you feel so much better. Sometimes you have to hurt to heal.
100%. And sometimes on here too, when we talk about comparison, you only are comparing yourself for the things that you don't like about yourself or the things that you don't think are valuable to yourself. You're not thinking of the things, compare yourself to the things that are damn good. What's fabbo about you that compares and maybe exceeds? But comparison always seems to take on the negative tone with us. You have to embrace what makes you fabbo. Nobody can do what you do. Nobody can be you. Nobody's going to ever show up exactly as you. And you need to embrace that. The comparison often comes to, it's always, I can't. But how about if we compare ourselves to, I am. I'm doing. Those are the little wins we talk about celebrating. And you pat yourself on the back because you have to be your biggest cheerleader, because there are days, folks, that nobody will be cheering for you. Trust me, there's plenty of days nobody cheers for you. And the minute you start comparing yourself to why there's no cheering or no sound or no sound wave or no soundtrack to your life is the day that you stop living your life. And if you stop comparing yourself, you're never going to be able to live a life to your fullest potential. How can you run a business if you're not happy in your life? How can you be happy in your life if you don't like your business? The comparison is part of what this industry is about. The imposter syndrome is part of what this industry is about. You have to find a way to shift your mindset to know that you're worthy to sit in a room. Because I damn guarantee you, if you ever come into a room that I'm sitting in, I will meet you and greet you. I will sit there till the very end. I make a joke all the time from my sports world that you practice your autograph so that people understand your signature. Because your signature, when you sign it, is as valuable as your autograph. Because you've meant something, you've done something, and you stayed to the end. When people want to do a selfie with you, be gracious in that. When people want to come up and say, hey, I didn't really like what you presented today, or disagree with you, trust me, it happens as well. You smile and say, thank you for offering that service to me. Thank you for letting me know areas I can improve. I'm not comparing myself to that person. But when you walk in a room, be the person that somebody says, and this is one of my goals and one of my missions. I want to be the person that somebody says, Bobby, one day I heard you talk, or one day I picked up the phone, and you made a difference. Not successful, but I made a difference. And maybe because of something I said, or a way that I said it, or the way that I've shown something, they're standing next to me today. I want everybody to be on stage with me. I want to sit in the audience and watch all of you shine. This is comparison for me, is to help others elevate and go. Jenny and Jay feel the same way. Exceed us. Pass us. Be more successful all the way around, whatever your definition is. But if you don't stop comparing yourself to the rest of this industry, you're missing out on an amazing life and a career. Live up to your potential because of who you are and how you serve. And embrace all those clients that invest in you and give them all of your energy. Focus on those. Compare yourself to, you want to compare yourself? What did I do last weekend? How can I do that better? Maybe I don't need to do anything better. I just did a hell of a job. Put this one in the books. It's great. And you leave it all there. Leave it all in the field. Get in your car and come home and get excited for the next one. Be gracious that you're coming home to a family, to a house, whether it's a dog or a pet or a lover or whatever, or you're coming home to steer quiet. Embrace that. Stop comparing yourself to anyone else for yourself. And I hope today you have seen why we said you're the only person and why. We're going to wrap that up here, but we're going to be open for questions. I'll remind you all, next week is week 5, March 29th, 2 p.m., right back here. Take your own damn advice. You've went with us. You've followed this journey with us 4 weeks. So you've built up the opportunity now on a worksheet to take the advice that you're going to write in there. The floor is open. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes. Come up and share and ask. This is your opportunity. And if you don't want to do that, we understand. You're asking some questions in the group. But this is your time to come up and embrace. Come up and tell us what's making you fabbo. Come up and tell us some things that you want to challenge yourself on. Come and share your story so we can be inspired by that. Jenny?
We do want to hear from you. We don't bite, as you know. And I know that this is some deep work and you guys are reflecting and thinking and growing. And I mean, this series is transforming us too. I mean, yes, we put it all together, but every time we go through these and we're able to reflect and we're able to share, we hear your stories, it helps us grow too.
Exactly.
I know a lot of leaders don't say that because the leader, the sage on the stage is the one who knows it all. Fuck that. You know what I'm saying? Like that era is over. Yes, there are some people that know a lot and they're gurus or whatever, but dude, I don't know, man. I think it's about being humble, and the more that we can pull down those layers, those guarded layers of, you know, I get it. We don't want to get hurt. We want to look a certain way, but just the more that we can really just step into who we are, the less stress that there is. I'm telling you, I mean, I'm even going through it myself. I've realized that I've been doing some of this stuff for years, and I'm like, whoa, hold on. Just recently, I just told Jay, I was like, man, this is exhausting. I'm sick of doing this. This is a lot of effort and energy. It's a waste. It's a waste of time. And so we
Absolutely.
really want to hear your story. I want to help you shine and grow. We want to hear your superpowers. Come on up, and if not, of course, we'll end everything out.
And you can share over in the Facebook group and do whatever you want. Here comes the amazing Natalie, who is doing wonderful things beyond. I don't even think Natalie realizes the amount of people that appreciate and respect her in the industry. Just talking about you on the phone call yesterday with somebody, your name came up, and I was very honored to say that I have met you in person and that I know you. So that's wonderful that you're sharing, Natalie. So thank you.
Ah, damn, that makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me feel
thanks.
warm and fuzzy to say I knew you.
I love it. Yeah, I'm just gonna like admit my brain space right now. So, uh, okay, framing this as like as much humility as possible, but everybody's probably in the same thing. So this year is like an embarrassment of riches, which presents like different challenges than before. So I find myself actually in this weird position of having the luxury of picking specifically what I want to be focusing on.
Yep.
And the really, really weird part is that it might not be the thing that like is the core of my business or has been. So it's it's weird because I'm loving the other things that we've grown into, and I've diversified such that certain things didn't need to work, but all of a sudden now they all are, which leaves me in a happy but also simultaneously burnt out place. So
Right.
that's my current struggle.
I love that. I love that, Jay.
And I feel struggle too sometimes is takes on a negative connotation, but even in the struggle there's growth, you know. um like you said, Natalie, you've been presented with a very very rare opportunity, and what I know of you, you're definitely going to come out on top. So, as um I think overwhelming or on the verge of burnout, you said, like, you're gonna figure out a way, because that's what you do, you know. Just kind of knowing you through the rooms or whatever, like, you have this energy about you that's like, oh shit, look at this. Okay. Kind of stumbled into this. Well, fuck it, we'll make it happen. And that's what you do. So I think the burnout is just like the the initial emotional reaction to everything that's going on right now, but you're gonna come out on top.
Exactly.
That's awesome. You guys know, I don't know if I've like shared this out loud, but I had this epiphany recently that I feel like balance is this like waxing and waning thing with growth. And every time you come into like a growth phase, there's always going to be a choice whether to take on a big scary risk and like invest to solve the problem, or choose like burnout until the problem is solved another way. So right now it's like, okay, well, I'm ready to hire people, but until I have people hired on, like everything's a little more chaotic. But it's like that's kind of always going to be the case, I'm realizing.
It's always right when you get ready to a big breakthrough and something's happening, you're going to do crap. It's going to be some of the worst 2 or 3 months on the brink of something big happening. And then you talk about, I don't have the funds or something to hire somebody. And again, that we can talk about abundance mindset. We can talk about money mindset. Mindset will take you so much in understanding that this is what you know you can do, but it won't figure out the solution to the problem of how to make that work. But the mindset will help you sit down and go, I know I can do this. Here's the steps I need to take. And then let that unroll. And then as you work on that, the abundance flow of money will come in. The abundance flow of the right person walking into your path to take over. But that is the beauty. But anytime, growth, you are going to be hit right smack dab in the face with some probably the worst couple months, the worst week. This is what's happening. I don't know if I want to go right or left. And then all of a sudden the door will be there.
Yeah.
Okay. And sometimes it's not the right door. Sometimes you're going to go to the wrong door going, God, this is what I waited for. And I don't mean God is I'm praying to God. I just mean this is what I'm waiting for. I went through this door and this is it. What did you expect? What did you set yourself up to expect? And did you work so hard and focus so hard on that you let the door on the left or maybe the window that you thought, I don't want to go through there because I don't see the end result? What were you comparing yourself to that stopped you from looking in the window and you took the easy path to the door? Those are things that we have to always ask ourselves when we're in that deep, deep thrust of whatever's happening. We have to understand that this is deep, but I'm going to be to the top of this or I'm going to swim underneath it. I'm going to get out of this and on the other side, because on the other side of pain and comfort is growth. And that's exactly what growth is, Natalie.
Absolutely. Nobody talks about how it's I think that's just going to be the constant, and
Yep.
nobody talks about the discomfort that comes with like the success isn't going to be like perfectly smooth like
Nope.
fairy tale movie style. So that's been maybe an uncomfortable awakening, but it's only because like I'm confident that good things are coming and it's
Exactly.
just temporarily pretty uncomfortable.
You're exactly where you're
Natalie,
supposed to be when you need to be there.
Natalie, the funny thing about fairy tale movie style is they're written to in that way. It's scripted. Life isn't scripted.
Exactly. And we'll end on that because that could be Fausto. Even Cinderella had a time ending, right? Even had a timeline. Cinderella even had a date that ended. The event doesn't keep going on, as Fausto always says. Even Cinderella had a deadline. So we want to thank you guys for joining us again. We'll be back for week 5, final wrap, March 29th, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here. Take your own damn advice. Grab that worksheet, work on it. And I think afterwards, when we get done with this, we're going to just do one big room and come back and talk about some of the things that we did after week 5. We'll be on week 6, depending on how that flows in the schedule. But we're going to come back and just wrap that up like that. Remember, this is a podcast for myself of the Be Fabbo Podcast, and this is also Jenny and Jay. So you can always hear these replays that are here, but you can also pick them up on our podcast as we work through this series for you all. So each of us have a podcast, and you can hear it there. And then, of course, on the replays to go back to. But we'll have a room afterwards that gathers everybody up. And we'll kind of just go through some of the things y'all were working on. And if that's something that we need, share in the Facebook group. If there's anything else you need to share or want to talk about, we answer those questions over there as well. And as always, you can reach out to any of us for anything else. For coaching, whatever you think that you need, let us know. And we will do our best to guide you and inspire you to change your mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Because a better business begins with a better you. All right, Jenny and Jay, anything else, my friends?
All right, you summed it up. Go ahead,
I
Jen.
was just going to say holla.
All right. Thank you all. Go out. Remember, you're Fabbo just the way that you are. Only person you're comparing yourself to is you. And trust us, the 3 of us and everybody else here knows you are Fabbo and you deserve to be here. We can't wait to see the impact you continue to make. Until next time, my friends, have an absolutely Fabbo and safe day. Bye-bye.
For more information about today's show, check out the show notes on the Be Fabbo blog at bobbybrinkman.com. Along with some offers for our listeners, you'll also find information about how to work with Bobby as a coach, a speaker, or for workshops. She'd love to collaborate with you. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe to the podcast to keep motivation coming to your earbuds. Be Fabbo.